Tonight, a new prescription for overhauling health care, this one from a key Senate Democrat, and it doesn't include a public insurance option. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, the heckling of President Obama. A predecessor calls it racism.
There's an inherent feeling among many people in this country that an African American ought not to be president.
The murder of a Yale grad student. The medical examiner reveals the cause of death, and a man questioned in the case is released for now. And a singing star from the 40s makes an incredible comeback in her 90s.
Cheers, everybody.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, a major step backwards on the rocky road to healthcare reform. All summer long, the House version of healthcare reform has been the subject of heated debate on the airwaves and at town meetings all across the country. And everyone's been waiting to see if the Senate and its bipartisan Gang of Six could come up with an alternative that both parties could embrace. Well, the Senate bill was rolled out today, but there was only one person there pushing it, not six. And that was the Democratic chairman of the Finance Committee, Max Baucus. Nancy Cordes is on Capitol Hill tonight. Nancy, we heard so much about this Gang of Six coming up with a bipartisan plan, but that hope seems to have evaporated, at least for now.
Well, Katie, the Republicans will tell you the problem was that they just weren't given enough time. It's true the Democrats were under enormous pressure by the president to put some kind of plan on the table, and it remains to be seen whether what they produced will satisfy either side.
With the health reform debate growing increasingly polarized, this plan, negotiated by 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats, was supposed to be the best chance for a bipartisan agreement.
This is a bill that should enjoy broad support. It is common sense. It is a balanced bill.
To try to draw Republican support, the bill replaces the public option idea with a network of nonprofit health insurance cooperatives to compete with private insurance. It also requires all Americans to get insurance or pay a penalty, up to $3,800 per family. Lower-income Americans would get a tax credit to help them pay for it. The bill establishes a verification program to ensure that illegal immigrants don't get government health benefits. And as Republicans insisted, the $856 billion plan is fully paid for. Yet GOP leaders still slammed the bill today as an expensive partisan proposal. Even the 3 Republicans who were at the bargaining table for months have misgivings.
You feel like you were rushed. We should have had more time. I mean, I thought the deadline was arbitrary and isn't helpful to the process.
Now, some Democrats are backing away from the plan, too.
The bill is not going to become law, and frankly, it shouldn't.
The Democrats' chief concern, that all their concessions resulted in a bill that does not do enough to make insurance affordable.
From the perspective of Democrats, the Republicans here have negotiated as if they were the Iranians, saying, let's just draw out some negotiations, make it look as if we're really serious about this while we go ahead and build our nuclear bomb.
There is one last chance for a bipartisan deal. Next week, Democrats and Republicans will have the opportunity to add amendments to the bill to try to come up with a package that they can finally both agree on. Katie?
And Nancy, if bipartisanship turns out to be a bust, might the Democrats have to go it alone? Because they're not exactly united on this.
Not right now, Katie, but the one thing that does unite them is the knowledge that failure would be even worse. They all remember those heavy Democratic losses back in 1994 after they failed to get health care passed the last time around.
All right, Nancy Cordes on Capitol Hill tonight. Nancy, thank you. The vitriol in the health care debate reached a new high when Republican Congressman Joe Wilson of South Carolina accused President Obama of lying. Well, now former President Jimmy Carter is saying such attacks on the country's first African-American president are the result of racism. Here's Chief White House Correspondent Chip Reed with more.
When Congressman Joe Wilson shouted those now infamous words,
You lie during the president's health care speech last week. It triggered a battle over bad behavior that has now been transformed into a bitter war of words over race. It began on the internet and cable TV, then exploded into public view last night when former President Jimmy Carter threw this verbal bomb.
An overwhelming portion of the intensely demonstrated animosity toward President Barack Obama is based on the fact that he is a black man.
Today, he went even further.
There's now been inherent feeling among many people in this country that an African American ought not to be president.
There followed today a ferocious counterattack from top Republicans, including party chairman Michael Steele, who called Carter's accusation a pathetic distraction from Democrats to shift attention away from the president's wildly unpopular government-run health care plan. Conservative talk show hosts joined in.
Jimmy Carter back in the news with the same kind of ignorance and stupidity that marred and marked his own presidency. We can't criticize Obama. We can't do that because it's all racist.
They called on President Obama to publicly reject Carter's accusation. Instead, it fell to White House Press Secretary Robert Gibbs, who refuted Carter and tried to minimize the issue of race.
The president does not believe that it's based on the color of his skin.
Asked if the president should address the issue personally, Gibbs said there is no need.
I said that on his behalf.
It's not the first time the White House has confronted tensions over race that they quickly tried to diffuse. When the president's friend, Harvard professor Henry Louis Gates, was arrested by a white police officer in his own home, the president accused police of acting stupidly and helped create a national firestorm over racial profiling. He tamped it down by ratcheting down the rhetoric.
Interactions between police officers and the African-American community can sometimes be fraught with misunderstanding.
And by inviting the two men for beer and conversation in the Rose Garden. The president's decisive moment on race, though, came last year when his former preacher stirred up racial anger. After at first resisting, the president confronted it head-on with a speech some insiders believe saved his campaign.
Working together, we can move beyond some of our old racial wounds, and that, in fact, we have no choice.
With the issue of race heating up again, some political analysts say it won't be long before the president has no choice but to confront it directly once more. Katie?
Chip Reed at the White House tonight. Now the latest on that terror investigation that set off a nationwide warning to police about a possible plot involving hydrogen peroxide bombs. Today, the FBI identified a key figure in the case, and agents descended on his home. Here's Justice correspondent Bob Orr.
FBI agents late today began searching the Colorado apartment of this man, Najibullah Zazi. Zazi is at the center of what law enforcement sources say may be one of the most important U.S. terrorism investigations since 9/11. The Afghan national denies he's a terrorist.
Of course not. I have nothing to do with Al-Qaeda and any link or anything with Al-Qaeda.
Zazi, who once had a hot dog cart in New York, now drives an airport shuttle van in Denver. But U.S. officials, speaking on condition of anonymity, say Zazi also recently traveled to Pakistan, made contact with known al-Qaeda operatives, and sought information about building homemade hydrogen peroxide bombs. That background, coupled with Zazi's visit to Afghan friends in New York over the 9/11 weekend, was enough to trigger Monday's raids in Queens. A senior law enforcement official says New York police and the FBI, lacking hard intelligence and fearing a possible attack, were forced to move early as a security precaution. Now those disruptive raids have badly compromised FBI surveillance in the case. While no explosives were found, agents did confiscate 5 to 10 backpacks and some cell phones. Those are common household items, but also frequent components in homemade terrorist bombs. In fact, 10 backpack bombs planted on trains in 2004 killed 191 people in Spain. Sources say literature on bomb making was found in Zazi's possession.
No problem. Have a good night.
But it's still not clear what, if anything, the Queens group was planning. Sources say Zazi and his attorney have reached out now to the FBI, and he has agreed to talk with agents voluntarily. But we have to say he has not yet been charged. Katie?
Bob Orr. Bob, thanks very much. Now to the place the war on terror began, Afghanistan. 3 U.S. service members were killed there today by a roadside bomb. This is now the deadliest year of the war. with more than 200 Americans killed. The violence has spiked as more U.S. troops join the battle. 62,000 are in Afghanistan right now, with an additional 6,000 expected by the end of this year. David Martin is at the Pentagon tonight, and David, the military is about to ask for even more reinforcements.
That's right, Katie. General Stanley McChrystal, the new American commander in Afghanistan, is about to ask President Obama to send him tens of thousands more troops.
Senior military officers compare McChrystal's expected request to the surge of 30,000 troops sent to Iraq in 2007. That has clearly given the president pause.
I'm going to take a very deliberate process in making those decisions. And so I just want to be absolutely clear, there is no immediate decision pending on resources.
McChrystal's request for everything from combat troops to trainers to engineers could add up to more than the Iraq surge and would take at least a year to carry out. Before the president approves any of it, he first must sign off on McChrystal's new counterinsurgency strategy. It focuses on protecting the population from the Taliban and delivering services the Afghan government has so far failed to provide.
Certainly you don't make determinations about sending young men and women into battle without having absolute clarity about what the strategy is going to be.
Members of the president's own party are expressing doubts about the strategy.
An open-ended obligation of large numbers of U.S. troops risks consigning us to the same fate as others who've tried to master Afghanistan.
Adding tens of thousands of troops would push the total number of Americans in Afghanistan over 100,000, but still less than Iraq. Katie?
David Martin at the Pentagon tonight. David, thank you. Now to the murder of Yale graduate student Annie Lay. Today we learned what killed her, and as police try to determine who killed her, Randall Pinkston tells us the focus has been on one man.
24-year-old Annie Lay, a 4'11", 90-pound doctoral student, was strangled to death. Asphyxiation due to neck compression, the official cause announced today by the Connecticut Medical Examiner. The results were released several hours after police brought in the man they call a person of interest in the case. 24-year-old Raymond Clark spent 5 hours overnight in police custody, submitting to hair and tissue samples for DNA testing. Police released him, but say he's under constant surveillance.
He is the only person that we have gotten any type of search warrant on at this time.
Police say Clark has invoked his right not to answer questions. His attorney says only that his client is cooperating with authorities. We are in regular contact. Investigators are now analyzing Clark's DNA and comparing it with 250 pieces of evidence collected at the crime scene.
They're doing DNA as we speak. I could get the results in 30 minutes, or it could be hours.
Clark lived with his fiancée in this Middletown, Connecticut apartment building and worked as a custodial technician in the same Yale lab as the victim. Police won't confirm whether they are focusing on anyone else, but say they've interviewed 150 people who had access to the building where Lay's body was found, hidden behind a basement wall. Police will not comment on a motive, but say as soon as they have sufficient evidence, an arrest will be made. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, New Haven, Connecticut.
In Virginia today, a judge set November 10th for the execution of John Allen Muhammad, the mastermind of the Washington, D.C. area sniper attacks. Muhammad, who is 48, was convicted of murdering Dean Myers at a Manassas gas station. It was one of 10 murders and a shooting rampage in the fall of 2002. Muhammad's accomplice, 24-year-old Lee Malvo, is currently serving a life sentence. And still ahead here on the CBS Evening News, remember TARP? The government was supposed to buy up troubled mortgages. It didn't work out that way. That story next. The financial meltdown was just beginning. Lehman Brothers had collapsed, and 1 year ago today, the government came to the rescue of AIG. Then came a plan to help banks struggling under the weight of bad mortgages. It was called TARP, but the program has not gone as originally planned. Wyatt Andrews continues our series, The Market Meltdown, 1 year later.
As Wall Street fell into freefall last year, Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson announced an astonishing plan.
Remove these troubled assets from our financial system.
He wanted taxpayers to buy up $700 billion worth of troubled assets, those shaky home mortgage securities that were tanking the banks and drying up credit.
Well, the American people are furious.
After heated debate, Congress responded with TARP, the Troubled Asset Relief Program. But 1 year later, not one of those troubled or toxic assets has been purchased. Treasury actually spent the funds, $390 billion so far, on direct cash investments to stabilize the banks. It worked.
Do we have any sense of how much remains in the way of toxic assets?
But the congressional panel that oversees TARP recently warned that most of those troubled assets, some $657 billion worth, are still out there and are still a substantial danger to the financial system.
The same dangers that they presented back then have not been erased.
The president also committed $75 billion from TARP to help working homeowners get cheaper mortgages from the banks.
More families will stay in their homes.
But that program, Making Home Affordable, has moved slowly. The Treasury reported last week out of the 4 million homeowners thought eligible, only 360,000 new loans had been made.
I have the sense that they are not trying to help me.
Olga Butler is angry that her bank, Bank of America, denied her application 3 times without a reason.
Don't take taxpayer money and say, oh, we're doing everything we can, and do absolutely nothing.
Bank of America tells CBS News it has helped 9,000 homeowners since the Treasury report and is reviewing Olga Butler's application. 1 year later, the economy is recovering, and for that, the Treasury deserves credit. But not much has changed in the value of those toxic assets that weakened the economy to begin with. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Washington.
Now a follow-up to our report last night about ACORN, the grassroots community organization. Today it ordered an independent investigation of its operations. This is in response to undercover videos that show ACORN employees giving advice to a couple posing as a pimp and prostitute on how to cheat on taxes and a mortgage application. The employees have been fired. ACORN's CEO called their actions indefensible. We'll be right back. From CBSMoneyWatch.com tonight, inflation, it's not much of a threat. The government reported today that consumer prices rose 0.4% in August, and so far this year, inflation is running a modest 1.5%, but that's still higher than last year, when it was 0. In health news, a report today in the New England Journal of Medicine ties sugary drinks to the obesity epidemic and suggests a penny tax on every ounce. So a 20-ounce soda that now costs $1.39 would go up to $1.59. The authors of the report say it could cut consumption while raising $150 billion over 10 years. Now, if that is astronomical, so is this. Astronomers have been searching the heavens for planets similar to ours, and today they said they found one. This is an artist's rendering of Koros 7b, about 500 light years away. Like Earth, it has a solid surface considered essential for supporting life, but it's a bit hot for humans. The surface temperature is 3,600 degrees. And are you old enough to remember this?
The Alligator by Henry Gibson.
Sad news today. Henry Gibson, best known as the poet laureate on the 1960s TV show Laugh-In, has died of cancer.
He never sings the blues. You'd like him better as a friend than wearing him as shoes.
I loved him. Henry Gibson was 73. And coming up next, the 92-year-old singer who's suddenly outselling the Beatles. We end tonight with a singer whose voice was a reminder of home for soldiers on far-off battlefields. That was 70 years ago. But now her music has struck a chord with a brand new audience. From London, here's Mark Phillips.
We'll meet again. It seemed like one of those songs forever frozen in a time and a place. Britain in the Second World War. It was sung by Vera Lynn, who came to be called the Force's sweetheart.
Cheers, everybody.
Vera Lynn is now 92 years old with reason to raise a glass. The re-release of her songs on the 70th anniversary of the outbreak of the war has shot to #1 in the charts with a bullet. It's even eclipsed the re-release of the Beatles.
Personally, I just can't believe it, and I wonder why. Nostalgia, perhaps?
Nostalgia may explain why Marion Gray has joined the Gray Stampede to the record stores.
Well, I like her singing and my age, of course.
But it takes more than people of a certain age to push an album to the top.
Last week, it really kicked off. A lot of younger people coming in for it.
You're scratching your head.
Yeah, yeah, what's going on here, yeah.
What's going on here is Britain at war again, now in Afghanistan. More soldiers going away to fight, more sacrifice. More need for the expression of that feeling that Vera Lynn still apparently provides.
Let's hope that they'll soon be home soon, and good luck, chaps, and all the best, and to your families as well that you've left behind.
Of course, Britain has changed a lot in the 70 or so years since Vera Lynn was everybody's sweetheart, or has it? Somehow the sentiments she evoked in a country at war then are still valid in a country at war now.
We'll meet again.
Mark Phillips, CBS News, London.
Don't know when.
And that's the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.